Oh, you did? I gotta turn my headphones on.
I also just realized the same thing. I was like, man, I can't hear myself at all.
Yeah. Ooh, there we go.
What was it this morning?
Cold at Calvary.
They had a mass for All Souls.
Oh, nice.
I went out there and just
Wasn't that at like 3 o'clock?
roamed around during the morning,
Oh, okay.
saying the rosary.
I think you have all month
They renewed the. You might mention that tonight. They renewed the.
Yeah, the COVID
Yes.
the COVID stuff
Plenary indulgence.
for the indulgences from last year.
Yeah.
So I think you have all month.
St.
Same rules.
Joseph
Same rules.
EOC
Like, we're live on YouTube.
article with priests. Man, I'm killing it. Doing so good.
What are you doing?
I just had a brilliant idea for an EOC article that I got to write now and write before the next 10 days. But it's a good
Live
idea.
on Facebook.
And so
Okay.
I didn't want to forget because I have those, those ideas where like just randomly it's like, oh, this is a great idea. I'll remember it.
I'll remember that. That's what I do with like either ideas for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'd be a great episode. I don't need to write that down. I'll remember. Or
Hey, Jim. Other way.
or I do that with present gift
Oh,
ideas
yeah.
for my wife.
I tried to get you both of your guys' presents this last week, and it totally backfired because I realized once, like for Christmas, like once I put it in the cart, and then it added it all up, and Haley was sitting right there next to me. She was like, "Who's that present for?" I was like, "Well, for Juan and Dave." She goes, "That's more than we spend on all of our parents combined."
Yeah, well,
And
I
I was
love
like,
them more
yeah,
than.
And I was like, oh,
I see them more often.
That's probably true. I won't do that. So I had to.
You can get it for me later.
All right. Look. Yes.
Just get it from me, and it counts for 3 years.
Also, like, what are you gonna get your parents? You know,
I
like,
know.
It's like
They have everything they want. They need.
right?
And they don't need. What do you?
I don't want anything.
You know what I
Yeah.
got? You know,
Yeah.
it's like I gave you 4 beautiful grandchildren.
Right.
Like
That's the best.
it is the best when you take them and
And take them away from
for
us.
like long periods of time
All right.
and just enjoy how
Not that I don't enjoy like
beautiful
being
they
with my
are.
kids. And don't hate on that.
That's literally what I'm saying.
We're on the Lord's team, the winning side. So raise your glass.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team at the winning side, so raise your glass. Shout out to Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Shout out to him.
Totally.
He's the one that coined that phrase.
Oh yeah. I was trying to think.
Why are we shouting him out?
Is today a special? I mean, it is a special day, but
Shout out also to Pope Francis.
you know, I was like thinking it's
Just
All
shout out
Souls
to-
Day, but he's still alive. And like he didn't die,
we,
did he?
We didn't. Well,
I'm pretty sure he didn't die.
No.
I wonder what the over-under was, or maybe that's not the right way. Like, when he stepped down, what the, what kind of odds you'd get, like, betting that he'd be alive still today?
I don't know. Those things that
They
you
would have
bet
been
on,
small. I think they would have been small. Wait,
Yeah.
you can bet on anything.
You can basically bet on anything.
I mean, do you have another person who's willing to take the other side? Then
Right.
yes, you can bet on it.
yeah.
But even in Vegas, you can officially bet on almost anything. I mean, they have bookies who will give you custom odds for anything that,
That you want to.
yeah, I mean, they might not take the bet,
Yeah.
but probably they will.
Nice.
They might not give you 10,000 to 1 odds because you know if somebody ever gives you 10,000 to 1 odds, you take it.
Yeah. On anything.
You take it.
Yeah. Okay, so the Catholic Man Show, this is what we do. This is the podcast. It also is a radio show. If you want the Catholic Man Show to be on your local Catholic radio station, give us a shout. Let us know. We give it to them for free. We're on 17 different stations that I can recall. We have another one that we're going to be bringing on soon. We're going down
And also call your local Catholic radio station.
Yeah, let
Send
them know.
them an email even.
Yeah. We're going to College Station in Waco, Texas this week. What
See,
is it this week?
it's next
No,
week.
next week. But when this airs, it'll be
Yeah.
next week actually.
On the 11th.
on the
and
11th.
12th, right? Is that
11th
right?
and 12th.
11th and 12th.
Yes, we'll
Yeah,
be
baby.
in there, and then we will also be at the Allentown, Pennsylvania Men's Conference. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can check out what Juan is doing right now, which is pretty cool. It's their 10th anniversary men's conference. Jesse Romero is going to be there. We will be there, and David Abel will be there. Saturday, November 20th. If you go to menaliveinchrist.org.
menaliveinchrist.org.
There's still tickets available. We will be there. It'll be awesome.
Totally, you should be there.
Men Alive in Christ. Okay.
Also, if you live in the Tulsa area and you're interested in homeschooling, let's just say this is something you're interested in. Hypothetically, there is a showing of a documentary, a homeschooling documentary, coming to Tulsa on November 11th at 6 p.m. at the Synergy Theater in Tulsa. It's about an hour and a half long, put together by some good homeschoolers. I think it's kind of interesting.
Okay, sweet.
November 11th.
Awesome. Okay. So tonight, if this is your first time listening to the Catholic Man Show, we start the show off by enjoying a beverage for its own sake.
For its own sake. It's glorious.
Yes. To enjoy the finer things in life, to enjoy the company of one another, to drink whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we like it.
Yes.
Also.
So we're revisiting a whiskey this evening. We're having Lagavulin. It is the Nick Offerman edition, the Offerman edition, 11-year, finished in Guinness casks.
They should have called it just the Ron Swanson edition. Maybe that would like have licensing infringement. You know,
Yeah, and
or
Nick
something.
probably wanted his name on the bottle.
Yeah, that's true. But Ron Swanson is my spirit animal.
I don't have those because I'm Catholic.
Yeah, well,
So
it's a Catholic spirit animal.
Uh,
He's not Catholic as far as I know. He might be, but so
He needs
it's
to be.
not
He
Nick.
should be.
He's not my spiritual animal. The character Ron Swanson.
is.
You see the difference?
I do. We're on the Lord's team,
The winning side.
so raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Shout out to Juan, who's our producer, who is on the buttons. Jim is here as well. Shout out to him. He is our logistics manager and bodyguard. I think we gave him another name recently, another title.
We've given him many names.
Yeah.
Someday,
do you remember-
someday, Jim, we should put together the litany of Jim.
Oh, man, yeah. He's a board member of St. Michael Catholic Radio 94.9.
What would the response be? So if you're like saying the litany of Jim, you know, it's like you say a title. What is like the thing? You know, it's not. You're not gonna say like. You could say pray for us. I guess.
Yes, pray for us.
You
yeah.
still
We
say
could
that.
be asking Jim and his many names to pray for us, but I think there also could be something else you say. Well, I'll think about it. Don't
Okay,
worry.
good.
Adam, don't worry about it. I'll think about it.
Good. Good. I won't do that.
We could say stop sinning.
You're killing me, bro. Jimbo Baggins, you're killing me, bro. Jim, you're killing me, bro.
Oh, man. Okay. So,
Anything new? Anything like?
yeah, I shot a deer.
Oh yeah, that's right. I still want to see it.
Yeah, afterwards we'll go check it out.
I want to go look at its face
Yeah.
in your freezer.
In my freezer right now. Yeah.
Are you gonna make
muzzle
are you
loader.
gonna make head cheese? Can you make head cheese with a deer? I wonder. There might
don't-
not be enough cheese on that head. If you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're picking down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I shot a deer this last weekend.
I'll
It was
bet
the
you can
end-
do it.
It was
I'll
the
bet you can
end
still do
of
it.
muzzleloading. Luke and Jude shot their first animal this last weekend.
A human.
No, a squirrel, and we skinned it and ate it.
You did?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Man, you're just getting your redneck on down there, huh?
Just just being with the land,
When in Rome.
working. Or Southeast
I
Oklahoma.
don't really know what that means, but
We'll just keep using it until
sounds good.
it works.
So how was Squirrel?
It was good. So all we did,
Tastes like chicken?
it tasted like a kind of greasy chicken. Is what it tasted like. Just a little bit more greasy.
It's like
But-
KFC chicken.
Yeah. So
They
all-
might
I mean,
be serving squirrel this whole time.
could be. So we just skinned it and then we just threw it on the grill, slapped a little seasoning on it. There's
So-
not a whole lot that you're gonna eat, but we had to teach them and the boys were there. They had to go through the process with me, because I said we're gonna do this. This is how we're gonna do it.
I've watched a video on skinning a squirrel, and it looks like once you get it going, you can really just deglove
Kind of, yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. For the
So
most part.
around the founding of our country, certainly around let's say the late 1800s, squirrel hunting was the most popular hunting season. I mean, it was like people would hunt squirrel as a form of sustenance. It was very common. Almost everybody did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so common that when Oklahoma was founded as a state, they actually decided to enshrine the squirrel hunting season is the only hunting season in Oklahoma defined by our Constitution.
Nice.
It's
I did not know
actually
that.
in the Oklahoma Constitution when squirrel season begins and when it
It's
ends.
like the end of May through January, I think.
Yeah, it's a long season.
A
Right.
lot of squirrels
Yeah, I mean they're
everywhere.
right. But it's just interesting. Like
Yeah.
today, people think like, oh, eating squirrel, like gross. I mean that's what a lot of people think.
Sure.
But it used to be totally regular.
I mean, if I gave it to you and you didn't know it was squirrel and said like, "Hey, try this," and you had barbecue sauce on it or something, there's
Mhm.
no way you would know.
I'm gonna tell you something. When we did that event with Brandon Sheard, who I saw yesterday.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's in town now.
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
he lives here.
He was at the All Saints party that I was
Okay.
at.
Sweet.
It's great to catch up with him. We need to get him back on the show.
Yeah, definitely. Love to.
But when he came, we did the last time we skinned, or we butchered the
hog?
the sheep.
Oh, I wasn't there for that one. Okay. I missed that
okay,
one.
yeah. So we did the sheep, and we tried a lot of things like fresh liver. I don't really like liver,
Mhm.
but fresh, it was very good. I was very surprised. But of all the weird stuff we ate that day, and there was a lot of
Mhm.
weird stuff we ate that day,
Mhm.
we ate offals, which I think is kind of like, did you name it that on purpose? It's like organ meat. The testicles, by far the best.
Well, calf fries are
It's
Really good.
like you had to kind of
there's no way people are listening still.
disassociate
No way.
yourself with what you're eating.
Right. No way people are still listening.
But
How was
it
your
was really good.
How was your weekend?
I had a lovely weekend. Like I said, we went to the All Saints Day party, but that was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I?
Well, you were in Stillwater. What did you do in Stillwater?
Well, it was we were just outside of Stillwater. At
the party.
Yeah, where exactly
Okay.
where the party was.
Okay.
I was somewhere. Where was I? I was gone
I was as well.
because
In Beaver Lake.
I was at Beaver Lake. Yeah, that's what I did. So, the Wyatts, us, my
Mhm.
parents, Pamela's parents, and the Williams,
Yeah.
we all went out to Beaver Lake over the weekend.
Nice.
We had a great time.
Beaver Lake is so pretty.
Yeah, it is. It was a little chilly, but it was really
Did
nice.
you fish
Great.
at all?
Yeah, we did some fishing.
Did you catch anything?
No,
No.
but it's not really why. It's not why I fish.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd never do it.
Right.
Right.
Luke caught a fish.
it was really nice.
Luke caught another fish this weekend.
A good
Hey.
one.
No, I mean I wasn't there. He's old enough now to where I can and he's familiar with the area where we feel comfortable to let him just go and
Right.
you can go down there and fish.
Yeah.
Because especially with
you
Jude is there.
you live right on the water.
Right.
I mean,
The
well,
plate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Your father-in-law.
he fished. It was a really good weekend. We fished. We hunted. We had good meals together.
So how big was the deer you got? Was it like average?
It was good sized deer.
Average?
Average. Yeah. We'll be right back. No Man Gear today. The book. Okay.
We can just start talking about it.
Sure.
I mean,
We have You have a good portion.
Could this deer like breathe and hear?
Yes, it was not a.
This one-
well?
It was not a deaf.
This one had all its
Blind.
faculties.
Yes,
It wasn't a special deer.
that's correct.
Like your
Like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about your mighty hunt last year.
Yeah. Hey, I'm still proud of that deer.
Tasted delicious.
Yes, and it looks awesome. It's still a good rack.
Yeah.
So.
I'm still new into hunting, obviously, right? Last year was really the first year I hunted. I don't understand the obsession or the even desire to shoot a deer with a nice set of horns on it. Like, I just don't get that. Like, why does when I'm hunting really for utilitarian reasons, like I want the meat.
Right.
I wouldn't do it if I wasn't getting meat out of it. I have no desire to save the antlers. And maybe it's just not my thing. But I just I don't even understand. Especially if you're not going to mount it, because most of the time guys don't. I mean, if it's really, 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 like amazing, yeah, mount that sucker. I get that. Like, it's cool. You have like a token of memento. Is that right? Memento? But if you're not going to do that, you just like take a picture with it, but you still want to get, like, oh, it like matters how many points it has. That is what I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not going to do anything, then why does it matter? Do you know what I'm saying? Am I saying that clearly?
Ish. Yeah.
That's okay. I don't need to understand.
No, I don't need to understand. You can understand.
No, I don't understand why it matters to people. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you were saying you don't need to understand your own thought process.
No. That's what I'm saying is
Gotcha.
it's very important to people. I don't know why.
Fair enough. It's harder to get those deer. Like they're
Yeah,
older.
But it doesn't make a difference.
It's a harder hunt. If you're hunting a specific deer.
I mean, you just got lucky most of the time. I understand you can't, like track, pursue, like on the cameras and stuff. But you're just mostly sitting there, and then it comes by and you shoot it.
All right, let's keep going.
It's not like you had to climb higher up the mountain. That would be impressive. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan, Juan Posada, and Jim Spencer. We're going to be talking about Acedia today. And our man gear is also a book.
We'll get to it.
Well, look, don't rush us, okay?
That first segment was probably brutal for most people.
We're going to do it.
But we'll get to the topic at
The
some
man
point.
gear is this book right here, Acedia. And it's Discontents, Metaphysical Boredom in an Empire of Desire by R.J. Snell.
Yeah. So I came across R.J. Snell. I never heard of him before, but there was a conference with Dr. John Cuddeback, with Dr. Jared Stout, with Jason Craig, and R.J. Snell. And I'd never heard of R.J. Snell at that point in time. And it was during COVID, so it was when all these virtual conferences were going on. And so I was really going for, I like Dr. Stout. I like Dr. Cuddeback.
Sure.
Jason Craig has a really good book on boyhood. So I was interested in them. And then I was like, okay, well, and I'll listen to this guy as well. It was before virtual conferences got burned out, right? Because it was like kind of a peak of virtual conferences. And then it was like, okay, everybody's doing a virtual conference.
Meanwhile, I was burned out on them from the beginning.
At the very beginning. The first one.
The very first one, I said, nah.
Yeah. So it was one of the only ones actually.
Although the conference you're talking about is the only one where hearing it, like people talking about it, I said, man, I wish I had done that.
Yeah, because it was for homeschool dads, is what it was.
Yeah.
It was for
Right.
homeschooling for
It was
dads.
very specific, like
Mhm.
content that was relevant to me.
Right.
The biggest problem with virtual conferences is that there's
so
100 speakers, right? And it's
Right.
like I don't want to have to filter through 100 talks,
Right.
and then get halfway through one and realize like this isn't really what I'm looking for, and you
It's
end up
very
spending all
targeted.
this time, right?
Yeah. And so anyway,
Niche.
he had a talk on there, and he was very engaging, and he was a really good speaker. His thought process was very I could follow it. I was tracking it very well, and so I looked him up. He has this book, bought it, told you to read it. You read it?
Yeah, when you gave it to me, like, hey, I want you to read this, and I was thinking like, why don't you go read it? But actually, I'm glad I read it.
Yeah.
It was very, very good. For those of you who don't know, Acedia, sloth. Acedia is like the cool way to say it. Sloth is like
There's
the
a
lazy way to say
I
it.
think Acedia is actually a little bit more precise than sloth.
Yes, I believe that is true. Especially in our common language when people have really come to use sloth as meaning laziness, and that's not what it is at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, slothful people are not generally lazy. They're actually busy people
Mm-hmm.
doing things.
That they're not supposed to be doing.
They're not just sitting around.
Right.
But anyway, this is what I like about this book is that he uses a lot. He kind of approaches it from the philosophical side.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely practical stuff in here, especially towards the end. But he starts by setting up who man is, which I always appreciate. I'm a broad to specific guy. How many times have you heard me say that, Adam? A bunch.
Yeah.
Broad to specific. We're going to start broad and then get specific. So that's what he does. And he does a really, really good job of it, so that not only like walking through the creation of man, but going into some deeper explanations in the creation of man that give you some good insight, some stuff that I had never seen before about the purpose of man. Not just who he is,
Mm-hmm.
but what's he for?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the why. I mean, obviously, there's the Baltimore Catechism why of why we're created, but this is just kind of deeper, and he goes into some of the Hebrew in the text of Genesis, which is really, really good, which we'll get into in just a second. But
How hard of a book is it for somebody who's not ever studied philosophy
if you've never read any philosophy, I mean, if you barely know what it is, then maybe you would have a little bit of struggle, but you would be able to get through it no problem.
Okay.
But really, the philosophical prerequisite is pretty low.
Okay. That's good.
I think. I mean,
That's good.
You've read about some of it.
I've
too.
only read a little bit of it, but yeah.
But it's in the beginning is where the philosophy is. He also just has a really beautiful way of writing about the subject matter. He uses beautiful language. And
Would you even say whimsical language?
no, I would not say whimsical necessarily. I would say like more a language of festivity.
For its own sake.
A celebratory language, I would say.
Okay.
And so it's just nice to read on the one hand,
Mm-hmm.
but also he talks about some beautiful concepts he discusses. One of them he gets into, which is not in my notes, but is the weightiness of reality. How reality is heavy. It's not. There's like meaning. It's rich. It's full. And one of the problems of today is that modern man seeks to have a very lightweight reality. I want to free myself of all these things. I don't want to be tied down. I want to be able to just kind of float where I want and
Very individualistic type of mentality.
It's this idea of pursuing this ultimate freedom. I want to be free from everything. I don't want to be locked down.
Right.
But then he talks about how everything loses meaning when nothing is weighty, when it's not heavy. And so there are just some concepts, the way he goes about talking about them. It was lovely. It was lovely to read.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about.
So I don't know where you get it because I didn't buy it, but I'll bet
It's online.
I'll bet if you have the internet, then you can find it. And I'm guessing you do because otherwise it'd be difficult to listen to this show if you don't have the internet. Maybe you're just doing it in the car on Thursday at 7 p.m. in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But anyway, Acedia and its discontents, metaphysical boredom in an empire of desire. Don't you like that subtitle?
Yes. Metaphysical boredom, I really like.
I
in
will tell
Empire
you though,
Desire.
Adam, anytime the word metaphysical shows up, you like it. You just like the word, you like the idea.
I like the
It's-
reality, even. The
Right.
metaphysical reality.
It's a word also you like to say. You like to say
I
it
do
sometimes.
like to say metaphysical.
Mhm.
Just feels right.
Maybe that's what Facebook was trying to go for
With
when they
Meta,
changed their name to Meta
they
Platforms
just had
or
a
whatever
poor
it is.
philosopher.
Meta Platforms is not as cool as metaphysical.
Right. True.
They missed the mark, I think. Anyway, so we're also going to be talking about the book today for their topic. This book ties together some really good things. It ties together sloth, or acedia. It ties boredom, freedom, and being all into the same thing, and how they're all related to each other, which it's hard to imagine if you haven't read the book or if you're not familiar with the concept how being would be related to boredom, freedom, or sloth. You know, just the very act of being. But actually, when you start reading it, you realize, no, it's fundamental. It's being and acedia go together always. So,
Isn't it the one sin, the one deadly sin that almost all people struggle with? Like, there's some sins deadly sins that people don't struggle with, right?
Sure.
That's not in their disposition, so to speak. But I think one of the early church fathers wrote that everybody struggles with acedia.
I would
in
believe
some
that.
way, shape, or
Well,
form.
and maybe whether they struggle with the sin, but I think they have temptations towards acedia. Everyone is tempted in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they actually struggle with those temptations,
Right.
you know,
Or how much they struggle with it, yeah. Sure.
right? But they still must ward off the temptations all the time. And like really, this is one of my like things that I really have to always be working on. I mean, and
so
you don't.
So is it making sure that you're doing, so there's all these goods, and to making sure that you are working on the greatest good? Is that what it is? Like, because you can be, like you were saying earlier, you can be busy and still be.
Okay, so let's frame this the right way, because we're not talking about a virtue, we're talking about a vice. So the virtue would be doing the greatest good.
Like, right,
So,
yeah,
but
right.
that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a vice. So in this
because
case,
the virtue would be like what? Diligence or perseverance, maybe.
yeah,
or
both. I think diligence would be the most direct opposite. Well, actually,
it'd be in the middle.
Actually, it's interesting. He says,
What's the other extreme?
He says festivity is the opposite of acedia.
So the other extreme is being too, like,
would be scrupulous. I think the other extreme would be scrupulosity. I think, where you are hyper focused, you are constantly judging yourself that I'm not working hard enough, as if it's about the work and not about kind of the attitude, which acedia in many ways comes down to an attitude.
I would almost think it'd be like frivolous, or like where you just don't take anything seriously, or like everything is just kind of a joke, or either that or the other extreme of that you are just too stern, you're austere.
That's what I'm trying to say with. That's where I was going with scrupulosity.
Oh, that you're more austere.
Right, and it's like, I can't allow myself to do anything relaxing because that would be sinful. You know what I mean? Like you're being scrupulous in your work habit, in your habits.
Okay.
Shooting from the hip. Don't be any of those things.
We'll be right back. Sorry, I took us off course there maybe a little
No,
bit, but
it's
I was
okay.
just trying to,
It's okay.
because we haven't really actually defined what it even is.
Right.
I was
need to
trying.
do that.
I was trying to get to like what is it? So
Mhm.
what's the opposite of it?
Well,
like,
that's one interesting thing about the book is he doesn't like really come out and say what it is like word for word. He doesn't offer like boom definition.
here's the definition.
He talks about it a lot, so much that you just start to get it.
Okay.
Good to go, Don Juan.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Talking about Acedia this evening. Talking about the book by R.J. Snell, Acedia and its Discontents, Metaphysical Boredom in an Empire of Desire.
What does Google say acedia means?
Spiritual or mental sloth, apathy.
Okay. So it's more than that.
It comes from the Greek, a lack of care. So the frivolousness was actually more closer to
That is kind of acedia.
to acedia than the austere or being too what was the word? Too scrupulous.
Scrupulous, yeah.
Sorry, I blanked on the word.
So this
Just
is something
blanked on it.
that like the Desert Fathers wrote about a lot. It seems like this is something that was written about a lot a long time ago. People used to write about this a lot more often than they do now.
Sure.
And they used to talk about it and consider it. And so it's something that we need to make sure we're still talking about and considering, because acedia is sort of a hatred of being. So you end up at its core, at the end, you end up hating yourself. You end up hating your situation. You end up hating your work. You end up hating God.
Wow.
Because
It's not a path you want to be on.
no, it's not.
There's also a book called The Noonday Devil.
Right. So the Noonday Devil is acedia, right?
Mhm.
That's the term that was given in monastic life, because in the afternoon, that's when monks found themselves most tempted to set aside their work, to go outside. You know, like let's say you're sweeping, and he's like, "Well, let's just go outside and see what time it is, see how much longer we have, or see if maybe one of the brothers is outside. You know what they're doing."
Allowing to be distracted from the duties that you're supposed to be doing.
Right. So like this is that moment at work when you say, "I'm gonna go see, like, kind of walk around the office, see if what everybody else is. Maybe I'll go talk to so and so down the hall, just see what he's up to." I'm not saying you can't socialize, but if you have work to do,
Right.
you should be, remain diligent. So in the book, I kind of mentioned this already. He says who man is, in the creation account. Then he says what man is made for, from the dirt, for the dirt. And then he defines what makes work good or what makes it bad, because we're made for work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do we know if our work is good or not? And then he talks about how
What are they?
acedia is self-loathing. Well, we'll get there. I'm just giving you the highlights. Those are the highlights.
Okay.
So I want to start off. This part I just found so interesting. About in the creation accounts, he gives some of the Greek. No, not the Greek. The Hebrew. And I did not know this. This is just fascinating. This is a quote from Bruce Hegman.
Bruce
Hegman. I don't know how to say his name. It's from his book, Plowing in Hope, Towards a Biblical Theology of Culture. He says, one of the linguistic ironies of the Hebrew language is found in the couplet, man/ground. Even though the man was taken from the dust of the ground, etymologically, Adamah is taken from its root, Adam. So Adamah means dirt. Adam is Adam. We can infer from this that the ground, and correspondingly the earth, was made for and in terms of the man, and not vice versa. So, literally the story, man is made from the dirt, but the dirt is made for the man. So it's not that we were pulled from the dirt, but that the dirt was made so that man could be pulled from it, is what he's saying. And so there's like this link. He says, as there is a play between Adam and Adamah, so also between Ish, which means man, and Isha, which means woman. Note the added he or ha at the end of each pair. Ish and Isha, Adam, Adamah. So striking is this parallel that some conclude the text is trying to teach us a profound point about husbandry in the old sense of care for the soil and animals. Just as Ish is for the husband, just as the Ish is the husband of the Isha, so the man, Adam, is the husband of the ground, the Adamah. And so man is made, this is just like a very important point in the beginning when, why is work so important? Man was made for the dirt. Even in the creation
or the
account,
dirt was made for the man.
Well, yes, dirt was made for the man. Man is made from the dirt.
Right.
But they're also made for each other. That man is the husband of the dirt, right? That there's like a giving of themselves. There's a total gift of self of the dirt to the man. And the man is giving himself in his labor back to the dirt. And in the creation account, I think there's kind of a notion that the work of man was given to him as a punishment after the fall, but it's not. God tells man before the fall that his job is to till and keep the garden. So he's given work to do as a gift. So it's not a punishment. Now, his work was not toilsome before the fall, but still, work is like part of the primary vocation of man in this idea. And so that kind of is I just like that was so beautiful the way to put it that way and to think about it and to know the relationship between man and dirt. It's like makes you want to be a farmer, kind of,
Well, it also goes to show in today's world, a lot of times it seems like that we're putting, the dirt, so to speak, above man. There's times where we it seems like we put earth above even man, like the uses of man. Oh, we can't use that because, for whatever reason, I don't have a specific example, but it just seems like
global warming stuff,
Yeah, I didn't want to get in. I mean, I don't know. It's just.
that's what you're talking about. It like some of it goes way, way overboard.
Right.
Not that we don't want to promote a healthy world, right?
Right. And we want to take care of it. We're the good stewards.
Right. We want to be good stewards of everything. Our souls, the world. I mean, it's like one of the first things God told to do, right? To till and keep the garden. So that idea of tilling and keeping.
Like having too many kids. We don't want to have too many kids,
right? Because people are bad.
Because it would be bad it'd be bad for the earth.
Even though that was the very first thing, the very first commandment.
That would have been a better example for me to use.
That was a good one. Hey, you still used it.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed. I wouldn't say nailed it, but
very first commandment is go, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it.
So how do we figure out if it's good work or bad work? I'm curious.
Okay, so another, like, to fill the earth, the till and keep could be fill and perfect. It's like till or fill, kind of the same one. Keep could be also perfect.
Or
bill. Yeah. So there's a threefold test to determine, is my work good or not good?
Okay.
There's it needs to have the respect of the integrity of things. Okay, so these are general concepts. This is probably the heaviest philosophical part of the book. There's the respect for the integrity of systemic emergence, which
what
is
does that mean?
A fancy way of saying you gotta let stuff grow.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's it needs to have
trust the process.
Right, exactly. And then it needs to have proper direction, and basically that just means it needs to be morally good. So let's talk about this a little bit further. The respect for the integrity of things. Some work masters nature proportionate to the nature's own capacity, while other work crushes nature, bending it to human will against the integrity of the thing. And it deforms the worker at the same time. So that's the important thing, that there's certain work that deforms and crushes nature, and it has a dehumanizing effect on the worker at the same time.
Okay.
God told Adam to till and keep. Another way of saying that is to perfect and fill or preserve. And so we need to, part of what God said was about Adam, to defend the garden. Make sure that it doesn't, it's not harmed. You don't want to be harming the garden. So number 2 is the respect for the integrity of systemic emergence. Build the soil. In the book, he gives this great example about grass in a field and allowing cows to graze. So you would think there's kind of like, maybe you would think that if you just left the grass alone, let it grow, and don't let the animals come along and eat it all the time, that would be the best thing for the grass. Don't come and chop it down. And that is where you would be wrong. So the number one thing that builds soil is when you have grass that grows, the roots underneath grow proportionally. And so when a cow or an animal comes by and grazes on the grass, the first thing the plant does is it responds by allowing a proportionate amount of those roots to die, because it needs to keep its root to grass ratio
Okay.
good. So when those roots die, bacteria, worms, and other things come along and decompose and enrich the soil. So that is actually the number one thing that builds topsoil, and that allows for a fertile, healthy
Death
thing.
gives life. Isn't that ironic?
God is always doing stuff like that, man.
I know.
So the best thing to have healthy grass is to allow the animals to graze. And so this is something we'll talk about this more on the other side of the break, but
Because I have no idea
it's not
how
just
to apply
keeping.
that.
It's not just keeping. You see,
How do I apply that, though? I have no idea how to apply that in my daily life.
yeah. We'll talk about it a little bit.
All right.
Last segment.
We got it. This is the hardest part.
Good. Oh my goodness. That was my child.
Haley, go to bed.
That was Leo.
Did they just get home? Were they home when I got here?
No, they just got home. You like to party.
Festive it up. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, reminding you to preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use T-shirts. Which way do I go? I'm just saying,
It's the t-shirt he
if
has on.
necessary, use T-shirts. Okay, so we're talking about respecting the integrity of systemic emergence. Okay, so basically, if you just take the first thing, respect the integrity of things, that might lead you to say, no, we have to preserve everything. We can't cut a tree down to build any houses.
Use it at all.
We can't do anything, okay? But that's not what we're talking about. Yes, he said, fill and keep. So he's basically telling Adam, you need to perfect the garden, that it's not perfect the way it is. You also need to keep it. You need to preserve it. But you need to allow it to grow. You need to help transform it into the thing that will make it better. Okay, because that's just the way he created. So we cannot respect the integrity of things without developing them. For they have an inner tendency towards development. And any squelching of our own drive to better the garden would violate the garden inasmuch as it represses our own natural integrity. So we have a need, we have a command, rather, to develop things, to use them according to their own nature. Okay,
I can follow that.
So I would just say you have a forest. It's like we want to protect and keep the forest. Well, that means sometimes felling trees. Sometimes, I mean, and when you don't have proper forest management, you get California with runaway forest fires because they won't manage the forests the way that they should be managed. That's not saying like, oh, they would never. I'm not saying they would never have a forest fire, but here lately they've gotten a little bit out of control.
So how do you take this test? It's so for your work as a financial advisor, how does this test help you? Because
right, so these are big time moral principles. These are not specific things, but you need to say like, am I abusing nature? Like, is there something about what I'm doing that is abusive to the nature of a thing? You know, and once again, I'm not saying, you might say chopping down a tree is abusive to its nature, but it's not abusive to the nature of the tree in as much as like the forest still continues to grow and is healthy, right?
Okay.
And also, am I,
so it would be respect for integrity things. You're respecting the tree even though you're cutting it down because you're also taking care of the forest itself. Then
right. Are you cutting down the tree just to cut it down?
Well, that would be the proper direction, right?
Yeah.
So,
are you cutting it down?
So you cut it down. You know, you're respecting the integrity because maybe you use the seeds of the acorns fall down. Then they raise up and you get more
right.
forest.
Or you're
oak
trying
trees.
to build a boat. You're trying to build. I mean, like.
I'm just trying to put it in
You're trying to do something good.
And the proper direction.
And the nature of the nature of the tree is that it serves very well for these other things.
Okay.
And then finally, the proper direction. He says that this is interesting. We wouldn't actually need this third test if it weren't for the fall, but because we're all sinners, we do need this one.
Because this goes to the morality of what you use it for.
If God willed to accomplish this, the filling partly through the subcreation of human labor, then there is little reason to think that the products of human work will be destroyed or rendered irrelevant in the end. So this is interesting. Like the things that we do, they won't be destroyed in the end. And we know that because the Bible tells us that all of man's works will be tested by fire, as though in fire. And, you know, that which is good will be purified. And that which is not will be burned away. So the things that we do matter. That's the threefold test. They're general principles. Obviously, you can't get more specific than that when you're talking about everything.
Okay.
You know, how to apply this to everything. So that's the work. We're made for work. It's part of just in who we are. So when we start to hate or when we start to resent our work, or even it begins really smaller than that, the temptation to just take a break. Mm-hmm. Why don't you just take a, you've worked hard today. Why don't you just take 15 minutes? Sure, you took 15 minutes ago. Take another 15 minutes, or you said you're going to take a 15-minute break. Just go ahead and take 20, right? So it's just these temptations to stop seeing our work as fundamental to our service of God.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that nowadays we actually are distracting ourselves from even being bored. We don't even allow ourselves to be bored where we have to try, like, if we're not doing something, even if it's meaningless, even if it is useless, mm-hmm. we still distract ourselves from even that.
Right.
Which is that's to me kind of a showing of where we are in reality in our world today, that we're no longer just taking a break. We're also almost taking a break from taking a break. It's like, oh, I'm going to take a break for a minute, and I'm going to go down the hallway, to go see somebody to talk with them. Mm-hmm. On the way to talk to them, you're on your phone checking something else.
Right.
While doing that,
mm-hmm.
you are taking a break from taking a break.
You can't even walk down the hall.
Right.
Yeah. It just drives me crazy about people, and I
don't know if that actually has to do with...
But I get it, because, okay, you're standing in line at the grocery store or whatever.
Everybody.
Yeah. You got your phone out. I have to intentionally tell myself, nope, I am just going to stand here because it's good for me.
Well,
to just stand here.
This goes back to the whole sloth, boredom, freedom, and being, right? Because how they're all intertwined.
Yeah. So when it comes to resistance, this is kind of like what to do about it. You know, if you have these
thoughts, or
right.
Yeah.
Celebration is the opposite of sloth, is what he says. So festivity, kind of leisure and sloth. You know, you think these guys look awfully alike, and they do. So let's say you're watching a football game.
Mm-hmm.
Are you watching the football game because you want to watch the football game? Or are you watching the football game because you want to be entertained? I have nothing to do. I don't want to have anything to do either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want anything to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to watch the football game. That way I don't have to worry about needing to do something. You know, see, like that is acedia, that attitude of it. And I do that. I mean, I do it with that. I don't think about it like, oh, hey, I'm going to choose to be slothful today, right? But that's just the part of the culture that we live in. It's this constant entertainment. And often it's entertainment that's incredible, you know? It's like amazing production quality entertainment, readily available anywhere you go. So we need to be intentional. We have to think about these things. Just, why am I doing this? Sort of like I want to have this billboard that says, stop and think about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just need to remember to do that. Am I choosing to do this, or am I kind of being enslaved into doing it?
Well, this sounds very Pieper-ish.
Oh, he quotes Pieper a lot in the book.
Okay,
So you know it's a good book.
So you know it's a good book,
Right.
right? I mean, because when you're talking about Acedia, when you're talking about, not being and boredom, you're talking about boredom. You're talking about Acedia. You're talking about like not fulfilling your responsibilities. It's all and creativity, like a lack of creativity. I mean, this is all stems from us not understanding what true leisure is, and not having the right mind frame when we do festive activities, not being intentional about them. Mm-hmm. We have these secular holidays that we're making up celebrations because we're not doing the true celebrations well. We have crazy, ridiculous holidays. Every day is almost a new holiday, right?
It's National Apple Day.
Right.
Yay!
But it's only because we don't do the true celebrations, the true festivities,
right? That
well.
Celebrate reality.
The celebrate reality, the incarnation.
As if, National Apple Day. What are we, pagans? Are we worshiping the apples? Like,
right. It's
why
because
why
we don't
do I want
do
a
it
National
well,
Apple Day?
and we rush it along so fast that we don't enjoy it.
National Donut Day. I understand.
Well,
obviously.
Yeah.
National Buy a Priest a Beer Day.
That's
a
a good
cool
one.
day.
That's a good
anyway. So he also talks about the Sabbath and how proper celebration of the Sabbath
that makes sense.
is
Being festive.
really important to resisting sloth, so that when I'm resting intentionally. You know, it's not a passive thing. It's something I'm reaching out and grabbing for its own sake. He says small is beautiful, which I always like. Just like that's one of my things, that like we need to be thinking small, not big. Thinking big is a waste of time. Think small. Learning to do and appreciate small things teaches us to see the importance in everything. So if we can appreciate doing little things, then it's easy to appreciate the bigger things that you do. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I totally agree with this, because one of the things that happens to me in adoration, if I feel like that I'm constantly being distracted by other thoughts, other things that have happened throughout the day, it's a true indication to me that I am not leisuring properly, because I've not given myself enough time to reflect, to meditate on things that have happened, and it's just overwhelming. Like when I finally rest my appetites, when I finally rest and have leisure, I can't even do that because I haven't had the opportunity to do it. And so when I'm actually starting to do it, it's just system overload, and I don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
So like, even in adoration, when I get distracted in prayer and I'm thinking about certain things, it's like crazy things that I shouldn't be thinking about work or family life or whatever else it is. To me, that is an indication that I've actually not been in a contemplative and meditative mind frame in spiritual life.
Yeah.
My spiritual life is actually lacking because I finally have
it's quiet.
Quiet, and then it gets just bombarded with noise.
Right. So the last thing he says is stay in the cell. This is so important. Stay in the cell. There's a quote he says, as the desert elders reminded their disciples, eat or drink or rest, pray or not, just so long as you stay in your cell. And the purpose here is that mere repetition might not make us virtuous, but there is no virtue without repetition. So we stay put, sink our roots in deep, and we find rich soil of virtue. Stay in the cell. You just keep going. You just stay working. Choose to remain.
One of the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
Cheers.
So that staying in the cell, that's like a important, it's kind of a good mantra.
I don't know if some people may not even know what that really means.
So yeah, I wanted to like at least get it in, but let's talk about it some more. They're talking about, these are that the desert elders. These are people writing to hermits. People, okay, oh, I'm your kind of the spiritual father of you. You're going out into solitude, or you're going into religious life, or whatever it is. Stay in the cell. He says they were counseling people who said I'm having trouble in my spiritual life. I'm out here, new temptations, new things, new attacks, and I find myself I have no desire to pray. I almost can't even do it. And I'm eating more than I should, blah, 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 blah. And so this was his advice. The desert elder said, eat, drink, or rest. He was actually saying, if you want to eat, eat. Go for it. If you want to rest all day, if you want to nap, take a nap. Pray or don't pray, as long as you stay in the cell.
Why is that important?
Because they knew that if you can stay in the cell, that is the Noonday Devil. Ultimately, he wants you to leave the cell. He wants you to abandon the work. Now, should you be praying? Yeah. But remaining in the cell is the key thing to defeating the other things. Because if you leave the cell, you're definitely not praying. You're definitely not going to be doing there's no way to do the cell, no way to do the work outside of the cell. So, for these people. So it's just this idea of remain in the cell. Stay, just don't leave.
Okay, so let me throw something at you and see if this is analogous or not, or if it checks.
Okay.
So a lot of times at work, when you have so many projects going on, there's a lot of things that are happening. You're in charge of a lot of things. You're trying to get a lot of projects done. You're trying to make things happen. Yeah. You have a long list of to-dos. Sometimes your list is so long that it feels overwhelming. You just don't even know where to start. Mm-hmm. You almost kind of like say, right. I'm just not going to do.
I know that feeling well.
Yeah, I'm just not going to do any of it.
Yeah, I shut down.
Yeah. Somebody told me once, when you get to that way, just start doing something. It may not even be the highest good. It may not even be the thing that you actually need to be doing
on the list.
The list. But do one of them.
Do one thing.
Get one of those things checked off the list, and then go to the next one, and then the next one. And then
small. Start small. Don't worry about the whole list. Just worry about one thing.
Right. So is that kind of like what it's saying? Like, don't worry about everything outside. Just stay in the cell.
Don't worry about doing the greatest good. Now, obviously, this is advice for someone who's struggling. This is not advice. This is not the advice for someone who's doing well and moving from good to better.
Or even good to great.
Right. Because obviously,
should be a book.
The saints would strive for the greatest goods right away.
Mm-hmm.
So the virtue would be we want greater goods over lesser goods. But if in the beginning, when the battle is more about, you don't have the virtue to rely on, which is the case in this situation, stay in the cell. That alone is good enough to start to lace a foundation to build on. So it's like, and you can take this too literally, okay? Because sometimes at work, it actually is helpful for your productivity for 5 minutes. I'm going to set this down. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. I'm going to let myself breathe for a second. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to come back kind of with, a little bit more rested. I'm going to attack it, right? That works for some people. You got to be honest with yourself, really, if that does it really make you more productive or not? Because sometimes that's just an excuse you're using to leave the cell for 5 minutes. It actually would be better if you didn't leave, because I think there's also studies that show it takes like 15 minutes to get back
to get back engaged,
into like engaged where you were, but when you left the break, like to get your head wrapped around what your thought process was when you were leaving, that kind of stuff. But that's going to be like one of my mantras I'm going to work on is staying in the cell. Just, nope, I'm not leaving. I'm not going to set this aside. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to work on
crank it out.
Just going to do it. Because that's the virtuous thing to do.
Because that's diligence.
Right. And I like what he says here is that mere repetition does not make us virtuous. But there is no virtue without repetition. And so we stay put.
Is that what Snell said?
Yeah. He also, I put this one quote in here at the end. I thought this is just so profound. We become the people we are by what we choose to do again.
Yeah, the habits that we choose.
Yeah, so it's not the mistakes. Like you make a mistake. That doesn't define you.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you choose to do it again. Knowing it's a mistake. Now that will start to define who you are. It's the things that we choose to do again. Now, not just that happen to us again, but things that we choose to do again. I've done this once. I found it good. I'm choosing it again. So it's the things that we repeat that really, that's what define us. We're all going to make mistakes, and you're not defined by the mistakes you make unless you don't learn from them, unless...
Are you the sum of your weaknesses?
No.
Good answer. JP2 said that.
He said
that you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But, if you have chosen again and again and again throughout your life and you continue to make these choices, people are going to say like, well, that's the kind of person you are. And the great news is you've been redeemed and you have grace in abundance, a super abundance of grace readily available to become a new person at every moment. We can choose redemption. And it's ready, waiting there for us. So those things,
confession.
Even if
That's
we have,
you're talking about confession.
I'm talking about confession. I'm talking about repentance in general. So even if you have lived a life of bad choices, they don't have to continue to define you. Mm-hmm. Don't do them again. I just thought this was just like simple, profound. We become the people we are by what we choose to do again.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it.
Yeah.
And it's the slothful man it's what he doesn't choose, really.
It's what you fail to do kind of thing?
Yeah. He fails to choose the good over and over and over again because he's come to despise it. He doesn't like it.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think that is? Why do you think we choose, like, we know actually, like, there are things that happen to you that you fulfill. Like, you fulfill it and you have a sense of satisfaction, right? I know if I go to the gym in the morning, I will have a sense of satisfaction. I will feel better about myself. I'll feel better. I'll be more energetic. It'll give me, it's healthy for me. I have a sense of accomplishment that I got up.
There's a natural reward.
Right, a very natural reward. However, in the morning, there's a chance I will not go, knowing that I will sleep in, that it will be, I'll still be tired. I will not be any more energetic than what I was if I didn't go. And I won't feel as good. But I still will choose it. At times. Why is that? Like,
I mean, it's just part of our human weaknesses. Ultimately, we don't like death. Death is not part of us. We weren't made for death. Okay? It's not part of our nature.
It's because I'm not willing to die to myself.
Right. Okay. And so like all of those little choices involve a death to self. Whether it's getting up, I want to keep sleeping. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get up, but there's a delayed satisfaction, delayed gratification. But right now I have to die, and I don't want to die. So it's not unnatural that we reject death, because we're not made for that. However, it's the reality, and because we are all now sinners, we need to embrace those deaths, so that we can help improve our nature, improve ourselves, become virtuous.
There you go.
So I don't know. I think that's why we reject it, because we rightfully reject death. On some level, right? It should be. It is to be rejected, like naturally. But that's just.
But we're not made for this world.
We're not made for this world. Luckily, death has been conquered, right? So we can say hallelujah.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can find grace in death, which we couldn't before. So now, bring it on.
So All Saints Day was recently, and Bishop Conderlo was over at All Saints School. He went over there, said mass for the kids.
We went
for
there.
the Catholic school.
We went there.
Yes, and he asked the kids. He said, "Hey, what does it take to be a saint?" One of the kids raised his hand and said, you got to love God. Okay. Next kid, you got to pray your rosary. Okay. You got to be nice to other people. Okay. And the next girl raises her hand and he calls on her and she goes, you got to be dead. He was like, well, okay. Well,
I have 3 answers. On the one hand, I know what you mean, and you're correct.
Right.
On the other hand,
really funny. You got to be dead to be a saint.
That's not what Paul thought.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I thought about Paul my whole life? That he had his name changed. That he was one of those people that God said, you were Saul, now you're Paul.
You're Abram, now you're Abraham.
He didn't.
Thing.
He didn't have his name changed. That was just that's just the Roman form of Saul. It's the same name. He didn't change his name. Saul and Paul is the same name. Doesn't that blow your mind? Right? The look on your face, that was exactly the look on my face. It's like, but my whole life, that's what I thought. Except it's just not true.
Who said this?
Jeff Cavins.
Oh, that's a good source.
We're doing
that is authoritative.
We're doing our Acts. Our
going
Bible
through.
study. We're going through Acts, and it's that was kind of early on. It's what? It's the same name. He didn't get a name change, right? I thought that was part of. Oh, you're an apostle.
Why did they do it then?
Well, when he's a Roman citizen, and so when he's they call him Saul, I think, when he was there in the Hebrew, when he was a Pharisee,
when he was a clique, when he was
when he was chopping the Christians, and then he started going by his Roman name, so in Acts he's on his way, in the end of Acts he's on his way.
Is this whole Kepha, Peter thing?
No, because that was actually something Jesus did, changed his name from Simon to Peter.
Right, but even in sometimes they refer to him as Kepha.
Oh, or Cephas.
Or Cephas.
Yeah, so that would be the difference between the Greek.
Is this the
same? Yes, same thing.
Very interesting.
Same. It's the same. Paul and Saul, same name, different languages.
Did not know this.
I know.
Let's
disappointing, right? You wanted it to be the other way. Yeah.
A death and renewal,
right.
Here's your pagan name, here's your baptismal name.
Right, Saul, you become a new creation.
Right.
Giving you a new name.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Let's get off before we say something heretical.
Disappointing Bible moment for the week. There's actually not that many of those.